join. We like to take young people down, help them have something to put on their resumes, help them to apply to different programs, Sterling Scholars, whatever. We like to limit the age limit to be about 16. We won't take anybody younger than that. These are a couple of twins that had an extra pinky finger on both hands. I thought it was kind of interesting. And then just a couple of before and afters. Of course, anybody who knows who does humanitarian work is that you're doing public health work. You can't focus on the individual. You have to do what's best for the masses. And so we'll go through the crowd and try to find a young person who's experienced some trauma and try and fix it so they don't have to go through life without their teeth. I think that if a young person can get their teeth fixed, it'll affect their education, it'll affect who they marry and what kind of job they have. So we focus on that. We focus on six-year-old molars. We'll see if we can find some newly erupted ones and run a little sealant clinic and try to have them get about another 10 or 12 years out of those first molars. Again, we run a prosthetic clinic where we can restore some missing teeth, and we don't do crowns and bridges, but we do a lot of flippers and partial dentures. And it makes a huge difference in these young people's lives to be able to come in and have a little bit of work done and walk out with a huge smile. And we know that when we're working on these people, that we're following the Lord's example and doing what He wants us to do. And I think that one day we will all stand before our Maker, and He'll ask us what we did with the talents and the gifts that we were blessed with. And for some of us who have gone on these trips, we can hold our head high and proudly say that we tried to share it with our brothers and sisters in different parts of the world. So anyway, I want to thank you for letting me be here today. And if anybody has any questions afterwards, I'd love to talk to you about it. Or if you're interested in maybe joining us sometime, I'd love to talk to you about it. Thank you.
Number of your people speak Spanish?
Yeah, a great number do. Not all of it. I do not. I speak a little Spanish, but not fluent at all. But we seem to be able to get by with people to do.
So how do you recruit people to go?
Our group is usually just people who know people.
Is it the same group every time? Or?
There's a good number of them that return every time, but we always have new. Everybody can't go every time. So we are always bringing new people on board.
What's the cost?
We try to, because of some of the contacts that we've made, we've been able to keep the cost to a bare minimum. The only costs really you have are your airfare and your share of the hotel. And that's generally, we can take somebody over to the Dominican Republic for a week for less than $1,200. So that's part of our focus is to try to make it as affordable as possible. We also have scholarships available for young people to help, kind of like a perpetual program where if they're a pre-dental or pre-hygiene student, we can help them go over there with the understanding that when they graduate that they'll kind of repay that to somebody moving forward.
Restorative supplies, your hand pieces, that sort of thing. Or do I bring my own if I could?
No, we provide all the equipment needed. We usually solicit donations for some of the supplies that we bring down, but supplies are really a minimal cost, actually. But this stuff is the expensive things. These units are about $7,000 a piece.
Do you have a website, or what's your?
We do. It's g3foundation.org. Just a G and a 3 foundation.org. And that's in the process of being updated, but I can be contacted through that. But we'd love to have anybody who's interested and let us know.
When do you usually go?
We go in January and in July of every year, over the Martin Luther King holiday. So we try to make it so you're missing as least amount of work as possible.
Where do you get your dental students? Are they people you know, or are they?
Usually they're usually somebody that one of the dentist's sons or daughters. For example, my daughter's at Creighton right now. We just came back with a group of Creighton kids. We've had a long-standing relationship with Case Western. We've taken kids from Nova and Marquette, University of Kentucky. Usually somebody in our group who has a contact will help them organize the students to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent. We were asked to give this presentation on Mali, and Tom Johnson and I've been there 4 years, and Tom came on a couple of years ago and has kind of become our administrative person to run a lot of the stuff. And it was interesting, we were sitting here saying our presentation, some of the things very, very similar. One of the differences here, Mali, West Africa, is a lot harder to get to than here really close. That's one of the real negatives, is getting people to fly that far. We fly direct flight to Paris from Salt Lake, and then we fly into Bamako, Mali. So it's a lot more expensive trip, a little bit longer trip. Usually all this last time we were a lot more efficient, going over there and got back in about a week. But we only had about 4.5 clinical days, I think it was. So anyway, but it's a wonderful place. We have a lot of wonderful friends over there. There's also security issues that we've dealt with the past few years in Mali. I'm worried about safety. The country's kind of in chaos right now. The government, 1 month, the day after we got back this last time, took over the airport, the presidential palace, and borders. So, but we don't know when we're going to get back at this point. But Al-Qaeda kind of basically owns 2/3 of the northern Mali. So we don't know for sure when we're going to get back. But so there's some differences there. We're going to talk a little bit about our expedition planning, and we're just going to kind of go back and forth on these slides. We're going to ask why, or, why we're going there, what our expectations are, what we're going to accomplish, where, when you're deciding where to go, what is your connection? You've been there on a mission, or you've done something else that gives you a connection. What's your characteristics of your group? Who are you inviting? We'll go into that. When, certain times of the year, you have to, at Mali, you can only be there certain times of the year, basically, and kind of survive it, so that. How, logistics and the lessons learned that we kind of came up with, or things that worked and didn't work. Okay.
I'm going to talk a little bit about why you might go, and those reasons are quite varied, but we'll try to delineate a couple of these. One of the reasons is a desire to serve those most desperate, and I think that's the reason you're all here. Another is to help someone learn to fish. Mali was more in fact, all we did were extractions. We were not able to do anything from a restorative standpoint at all. So this was all just emergency dentistry, emergency extractions, and relieving infection and pain. We like to teach our families by example. I think that's a common thread for all of us as well. And we enjoy the experience with others. I was delighted to be invited to go, and tremendously enjoyed the experience. One reason is to join the Navy and see the world. I've never had a guy pull a ball python out of his pocket and show me at the end of his appointment in my office in Ogden. So we call this guy Snack Man. That's a long story. And some of the reasons are very personal, and we'll share those perhaps at the end.
We decided in Mali there's a great need. That's one thing that keeps us going back there. It's one reason we don't really do anything but extractions. There's just lines and lines and lines of people, and it's almost impossible to get to everybody. They are literally dying of dental infections in Mali. A lot of them have a lot of draining fistulas out, skin missing all over the chin, infection in the chest, and people come in and just right on their deathbed. Should be in ICU. I mean, a great number of them. So it's a very high need area. You're going to choose to do emergency care, or you can do restorative dentistry. In our case, we did take a portable dental unit, took the digital x-ray and everything the first 2 years we went, but we didn't do that the last two just because we found that there were so many people in such desperate need that we didn't have time to restore a tooth. We were too busy trying to save somebody else, and so we just didn't have time to do that. Sometimes if you have missionary service, you have language or contact. Brett Moy started this expedition. He asked me to come along 1 year into it, and then I've been the last 4 years because I speak French when I'm on a French-speaking mission. the national language there, and all the government and whatnot is French, but the local is a language called Bambara, and we don't speak any of that. We have translators, and we'll go over that later. Sometimes you have an existing organization, or as you say, you start your own tax-free and tax-exempt organization. In our case, we went with one organization to start with, and we finished with another. The Walesabugu Alliance, started by Marion D. Hanks years ago. It was a great opportunity for us to link up with them and stay at their little compound, and we'll go over that here in a minute. One clinic or multiple sites. In our case, we did probably the lion's share out of one clinic, but we did go to multiple sites, took our equipment and packed up and went out to different villages. Do you go on to any kind of tourist thing, do any excursions? I know in a lot of these areas you do. That's kind of funny. In Mali, you don't. There's really nothing to go see.